So we usually cook our Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve, and that's what we're doing again this year. And we plan to have guests over, and of course that's not going to happen now because of the new rules. But we're out here harvesting our veg nonetheless for our family. So we've got about 5 Brussels sprout plants. This is, I think, the best one, and this will do our family. Hack the top off already and given that to our pigs. The sort of ball of leaves on the top, we'll give the pigs the rest of the leaves off this plant. And we'll probably do, I would say, probably 2 plants. That will do our Christmas dinner. And I've also harvested some leeks, and we'll cook these in a cheese sauce. And then next up, we've got a Swede to take in, one of these big boys here, and we'll mash that with some carrots. So the last couple of bits to harvest from the garden this year will be a Swede back there, and the last of our carrots, these are all the carrots we've got left in the garden, unfortunately, here in this container. I've spoke before about how I like to grow them in containers, fairly deep containers, and we've got a few left in here from this year. I was going to pull out that bit of grass there, but thinking about it, I'm not sure that there's any need. But how many have we got? We've got a fair few little tiny ones that never came to anything, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 biggish carrots, which isn't quite enough, but it'll do to go with our Swede, and we'll mash that. So a carrot Swede mash, and then the other veg will be what we've already saved. So we've got some beans and courgette and things like that in the freezer already. Oh, and a cabbage. So we'll take a cabbage in as well. So these cabbages, I've taken no precautions to protect them from moths. We just give them plenty of time, really, and just let them tough it out, and they've been fine. You know, while they were small, it looked like we might lose them, but they tend to come through okay if you just let them get on with it. That's our experience anyway. And I think we're gonna leave the rest out here because I think with the cabbage that we've got there, that'll do for our leafy greens. So we're not going to worry too much about the kale or the chard for this meal. The goats have got the spare Brussels sprout leaves. Don't worry, that's not for you, love. That was for harvesting my leeks with. When I pull the leeks, I try and... they got a really decent root system, and if you're not careful, you pull up quite a bit of root and earth with them. So I try and... I use a fork just to loosen the ground ever so slightly. And then I bend the leek and then chop it so that the roots and everything stay in the ground to decompose. Otherwise, you end up... Well, it's just a big mess. If you pull that all into the kitchen, you end up taking a load of that soil that you've worked really, really hard to condition and make amazing, and then you end up, flushing it all down the toilet or flushing it down the sink when you clean your leeks. Are they getting some treats, love? Mm-hmm. They've just had some beetroot, a handful. And not much at all. And the leaves off the top of the Brussels sprouts. Yeah. So they've already been fed. They've had their allocated rations, if you like. My wife has come to realise that basically, unless they're actively eating, they're going to be following her around screaming that they're starving. Is that right, love?
Like my children.
Like the children, she said. Yeah, I find in all cases, if you can do as much of the trimming and cleaning at the vegetable plot as possible, then you're going to be salvaging all those nutrients and the soil. There's a reason that we're always going to be weeding our vegetable plots, because we've made this the best possible soil we can. We've made this the most nutritious, amazing place for plants to grow. We work really, really hard to do that. We try and capture as much of the carbon and nutrients and micronutrients as we can in our compost, and we try and have that break down as best we can, and then we try and build that all into our soil. And then it's madness to me to then pull up a big clump of that, take it into the kitchen and clean it in there. So like I say, we try and leave as much of it behind as we can. So as you can see, you know, my leeks, I chopped the bottoms in situ, and I would have left them in the soil here. So those roots are still attached. That's the rest of it there. So I literally, when the whole leek was there, I would have pulled it and leant it over slightly and then chopped it with the knife. I'd usually do it just with the knife that I carry on my belt, but kind of got out of the habit of carrying it on my belt, because with my you're probably sick of me talking about my wrist, but with my wrist being as it is, I'm not able to use it as easily. So I've gone out of the habit of carrying it for the moment. So this is what I wanted to show you. I built this here, this sort of stand that I could prep vegetables on. And we've got a hose pipe that runs all along the back here, up that hedge, and right up there to our hose pipe that we have at the top that we use for watering the vegetables on the rare occasions that it's needed, and we spur off of that for water for our animals. But I've put a spur on the bottom there so that I can fit a tap to that timber, to that post. The idea being that I can wash my vegetables in this Belfast sink that's right here, put a bucket underneath to catch the waste, and then I'm not wasting any of the soil or anything that we're washing off of our plants. That's the idea, at least. I haven't got round to fitting the tap yet, but at some point in the future that will happen. But until then, we still try and keep as much here as we can. It's just madness to me to take things away from this site that we're not going to use. To take things away from this site that aren't going to be eaten is madness to me if we can avoid it. So obviously there's parts of these plants that we're going to take inside and strip, but they're substantial enough, the bits that are left, that they're easily going to go back into our system, whether it's through feeding animals or going into the compost. But things like soil, that's not always the case, and you find yourself washing it down the drain. So we try and avoid that as best we can. So it's Christmas Eve tomorrow, and Christmas Eve's when we're doing our Christmas dinner. So we're just coming out. I'm going to harvest the last of the veggies that I need for Christmas dinner, and Jason's here again to give us a hand. We've just been out and done all the pig bins, collected those, which obviously is something I'm really grateful to have the help with. And then we're just going to now do whatever we can with these hens, because that bit of ground we gave them has lasted about 4 days. So we're going to try and... Are we going to move the actual trailer, love? Yeah. So we're going to move this whole setup. And as I explained before, I can't get a vehicle in here, so we're going to have to do it all by hand. So we've done the first bit, which is the outside netting. That's been at least partially successful. Moved it all in one piece, which is nice. And some of the girls are already finding their way in. So the next thing we'll have to do is obviously just get it rigged up properly and then move the trailer over, which is going to be a muddy job. So we're nearly there. Managed to move it. We're just setting up the net now. Put my back out. They're nearly there, and they're on some much better, drier ground. So poor girls, look. And this is after 10 days. 7 days on this bit and another 3 or 4 over there. At one point, my boy was next to me and the trailer was tilting. So I was pulling it back level, and there's a screw sticking out. Not a dangerous part of the screw. The head of the screw sticking out next to him. And where we attached the netting down onto, and I was pulling the trailer down and the screw was caught on his trousers and pulling his trousers down, and he didn't know what was going on. So this is the ground that they've had for 10 days, and as you can see, they're on some better stuff now. When I showed you last time we were out here, I showed you the difference between the low points and the high points. So they're up on a high point now, so this should last them much longer, because we've got birds elsewhere on a similar amount of space, and that hasn't degraded nearly as quickly as where these poor girls have been. So that's a good job done. I'm going to go and grab the Swede that I want for our Swede and carrots, and grab our carrots for our Christmas Eve dinner, which is our Christmas dinner. Christmas Eve is when we do our party hats and all that kind of thing, and crackers. So I do a lot of the prep work for that today. So I'm going to get the Swede now, get the carrots, and we're going to start making our carrot and Swede mash. Hello, love. You've been fed twice already. You cannot possibly be hungry. You cannot possibly be hungry. I'd love it if I thought you just wanted a stroke, but I don't think that's the case, is it? Food you're after. Well, maybe you just want a stroke. They love fruit. I can't remember what these plants are. Is it a Gelder rose? So they'd be rose hips. There's only 5 of us, so I think this is plenty. Somewhere in here we've got some parsnips as well. So I'll grab those and then I think we're done. So this is my first year growing parsnips and I've got no idea what's going on here. I wish I had my tap up and running here so that I could clean them off quickly outside, but I'm going to have to do this by one of our taps by the house. So I don't know what's caused this. It's like a giant club of parsnip and then lots of what look like really fantastic parsnip roots growing out the bottom of it. So is that possibly because the soil here is too rich? Don't know. But either way, there's plenty for our needs here. So that's the Swede, the parsnip. Yesterday I collected the Brussels sprouts and the leek. So we'll grab the cabbage and the carrots next. And then that's all we need for our Christmas dinner with some, we'll probably have some beans that are in the fridge. Don't think we'll need anything else. And like I say, because it's only for 5 of us, I think this little cabbage here will be about perfect. That little gun will be just right. Now, when you harvest a cabbage, if you cut it off and then you score the stalk where you cut the cabbage from, as you know, I'm not carrying my knife, so I'm not going to be able to do it now, but if you just put a little cross in it, you'll get more leaves, more growth coming out from that little crisscross, and you know, you'll get several more cabbage leaves, so you'll get a small second harvest from the same plant. Well worth doing. So just the carrots left. And so what I do is I use some nice rich compost in a, oh look at that little guy. I can't remember the variety of any of my vegetables at this time of year, but look at that, perfect. But what I do, I use a nice rich compost and really loose, because that encourages the carrots to you know, naturally form fantastic thick long roots. And what I do is I'll use the same compost, or what I have done here, use the same compost 2 years running to grow carrots in. And as you know, all your different plants will require different types of nutrients. So after 2 years of growing carrots in this compost, what I'll do, because it'll still have a fair amount of nutrients in it, because it's only had whatever the carrots have taken out for 2 years, then I'll just add this compost back onto my compost pile, because it's still going to be really rich in humus and be able to add whatever nutrients the carrots haven't taken back into that compost pile. And that'll just go back into my cycle of composting. But I'm not going to grow carrots in it for a 3rd year, just because, like I say, it's already had whatever the nutrients the carrots are after. You know, it's had those plants in there for 2 years, trying to get hold of as much of that as they can. Awesome. And it makes it really easy to harvest as well, because it's all so loose. Look at that. So just 3 more to go. And what I was hoping, but I didn't speak it out loud because I wasn't sure. What I was hoping, look at that. Whopper. What I was hoping was that I would have enough carrots to do some Sweden carrot mash and also be able to just serve carrots on their own. And I have, so super happy. My wife, who's refusing to be filmed for this particular segment, says that we need to have a very small segment called What a Glamorous Christmas. So here we are, the day before Christmas Eve. filthy. Oh, I've got permission to film my wife from the waist down. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's nice to get back in the house. We've been without a wood burner for about 2 weeks. Our last one was condemned basically by the chimney sweep, so we had no heat at this end of the house, and we've got this one fitted. It's incredibly cheap. The actual wood burner was about £300 or £400, and the fitting was only 100 and something. So finally, we've got heat again at this end of the house, which is nice just before Christmas. Anyway, that's going to sign me off. This will be my last video this side of Christmas. I'm sure we'll be doing more between Christmas and New Year. But from me, the Leeks and the Brussels sprouts, thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you for following me. Those of you who followed me all year, thank you so much. The channel is starting to build. It's starting to get more and more subscribers, and I thank you all. I really genuinely mean that. I'm just absolutely thrilled that people are finding this channel that genuinely want to follow what's going on here. So thank you so much. Merry Christmas, and have a good... Oh, there you go. Say Merry Christmas, love.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry glamorous Christmas.
Merry glamorous Christmas from us here to all of you guys. Thanks. Speak to you soon.